There's your guys' big room to the right, and then there's the boys' big room to the right, John, Barry, and Susan in the middle at this time, and then the bathroom there. There was a bathroom right there, and it had a tub. There was no shower that I recall. We took baths, me and John, once, maybe twice a week in that bathroom. Okay, so did you guys have a bathroom in your room off to the right when you walked in the middle room? No.
Let me just quickly say, we're talking about, the episode has started. Hi, everybody. We're talking about Indian Lake.
Hi.
And how we bathed in Indian Lake, but and took showers. Where were the bathrooms? We can't
Indian Avenue.
Indian Avenue, Indian Lake. Indian Avenue. But I will tell you this, there was one bathroom downstairs. Once we broke through to the second floor, that added the second bathroom upstairs. The bathroom downstairs, you could come off the living room. It was there because Bill took me in there to that little bathroom. I'll never forget where it was in Indian Avenue because of what happened. And it was the first time he told me, you got to shave that mustache off your face. And I had never held a razor, and I let Bill just do that and take it off, and it was gone. But I'll never forget the moment, So that was funny. Yeah. But it told me about the
about that. You guys wait. So when we did that TV show, The Family Thing, they had two skits we reenacted. One was when we lost the hamster in the wall at Hallidan. And the other was when a brother was teaching another brother how to shave. And I bet it was from the story. Somehow they heard about that. How would that happen?
And the second event in that bathroom, that is like a film in my mind, was I was outside. I said a bad word. I don't remember what it was. And Mom came out and yanked me in there. And in that bathroom in front of that sink, took a bar of soap and washed my mouth out literally with soap to not talk like that again.
It is not good. That bathroom was off the kitchen, I think, Bob, coming from that side. And then it was off the middle room.
Right to the left. Yeah, it was.
I know it. So here's my bathroom recollection. And somebody else remembered it too. There was a rat loose in our house, a white rat. And I don't know if it was a pet or a rat, but I was in the bathtub and Dad was wrangling the rat with a poker from the fireplace, nailed it in the bathroom, and blood splurted everywhere. And I was in the tub.
I do remember. I do remember when Dad was cornering a rat. I do. I have a question. I have a question for you guys. I actually wish John was here for this question, but I have not a question. It's an observation. I was thinking the other day, the one thing, I mean, everyone with Mom and Dad, the nightmare, Dad, nightmare. But for me anyway, I can only talk about me. And Susan, you spent a lot more time with them. Here's what they never did. These two people, other than one time on Indian Avenue when Dad got thrown out of the house, only one time, these two never fought in front of me. They never bitched at each other in front of me, yelled at each other in front of me, attacked each other in front of me, ever. So I don't know if you guys had that experience, but I have no memory of them yelling at each other.
Oh, did you?
To each other.
No, I saw Dad and Mom fight plenty. I was up in their room with you, Susan, when Mom and Dad, they were throwing suitcases at each other. I mean, it got way out of control.
A lot.
That was one of the few times I said, Susan, come on, you come with me, because they were in it, man.
So y'all guys, pretty much every night, those two wacky kids, God bless them, after a gig, if we were in a hotel that had featured a lounge, then I got put, everybody went to their rooms. Mom would, put on the TV. I could watch whatever. I could always call down to the hotel and tell them if I need them. They go down, hang out, eat, do what they're going to do, come up and fight for about an hour and a half, totally wasted. And then that's just how it was every time on the road.
I don't think I was in the drink. I don't think I was in the drink pathway. And of course, as a child, my mission was to stay clear of these people. I'm assuming I succeeded. I was always gone.
And I was a sitting duck. There was no, I was part of the furniture.
Yeah, definitely. and it was in front of me when she picked up this white milk glass ashtray and hurled it at him in the living room on Indian Avenue. And the next thing I knew, he was gone and calling me the next day on the phone saying he'd be back soon. I go, okay.
You guys out there,
take your time.
you guys out in Castellan. So this is sometimes what happens when, like, we have a guest coming, and we're not all filled with our agenda and what we're doing and all of our fabulousness. So then we just start talking with each other, and then pretty soon, like, we know we're supposed to get going. Then Bob will just hit record, and you'll come in on wherever we were. We were at Indian Avenue when we came in, but we actually have a show today, a show that features none other than, take it, Bob.
Part 2, the Artie Kornfeld interviews Woodstock.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Artie Kornfeld, he produced our hits and other hits, but he was quite in the forefront of the Woodstock Music Festival. So if you don't know about that, listen closely, because you're going to get some tidbits from Artie about it, but you've got to listen close. That's our suggestion.
It's super exciting.
I have a question. Because I want to get this right this summer, and it always seems to. When did Most Peculiar Man? When was that recorded? Was that 65?
Yes, or 60, or 66. 66 it could be, because we were really busy with Joda and Mercury Phillips.
Yeah, that was with Artie, right, guys?
Oh yeah,
yes.
Yeah, and that was for Mercury Phillips when we met him there.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Because, we're getting close to where we can just say, man, we've been doing this for 60 years. So that's why I was thinking those early songs, don't put your feet in the lemonade because you're running short of water.
I forgot about that one.
Don't put your feet.
I love my Siamese cat because he's not very fat. He sleeps through the air. We land in a chair. I love my Siamese cat. Was that 65?
66. I'll tell you why I remember. It was the flip side of Most of All, and we were at a radio station, okay, and it was going to be our big hit. It wasn't, but it was going to be. And so the Massachusetts disc jockey, we were up near Holyoke or somewhere, played Most of All, and it just blew them away. And it's on the radio. He said, "Let's flip this over and see what this is." And he started Siamese Cat. I'll never forget it. After about 4 lines, he said, "Well, I think we've had just about enough of that." And he pulled the needle off and he shut it down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did. And you know what? I agreed. I was like 15, but I agreed. 16, and that's a piece of junk.
It's a kid song. It was he booted it when it went blank. We love when she wiggles her tail.
Like the Munchkins and Wizard of Oz. And I know they were looking at Barry and John and go, how cute this will be, Siamese Cat, But that disc jockey was horrifying.
And then at the end they go, Ken.
Oh, I haven't, listened to that. But I'll tell you, Paul, you mentioned Most Peculiar Man. That was the time, that was a serious recording, and we were learning the ropes of recording really well by the time Most Peculiar Man, and he picked it. I didn't even know that song.
Question? Am I tripping, or did Simon and Garfunkel also record that at some point?
That was their song.
Or do I?
No, we did what we were going to do for the rest of our life. We cover tuned it. We cover tuned it, and we went into the studio. He thought it was a great song. We did. And made a recording of it. And it's the first, may have been one of the early times we started that path.
Yes, and here's one of the problems with that, and I truly remember this now, and that's why I was verifying all these things, is because at that time, because of that, I wasn't sure if you guys were those guys, or you guys could have been, I think I just thought you guys were the guys with the song. Like, you also were Mrs. Brown. You were the guy, you sounded exactly. Come on,
yeah. What's that, Polly?
This is Most Peculiar Man. It was on this album, Simon and Garfunkel album.
Yes.
We heard that all the dang time. On the way to school.
Susan probably thought Simon and Garfunkel did one of our songs.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, look, Shaker, and bump it up 40 years later. Paul's oldest son, but at the time he was probably around 12, 11. I don't know. Linda Ronstadt was big, but no, he wasn't old enough because he didn't understand the radio. He and B, and they thought I was Linda Ronstadt because they would come to our rehearsals and we'd be doing "I've been cheated," and then he'd get in the car and we'd drive, and there'd be Linda, and he'd go, "It's Susan," and it's like, "That's not me, big guy." "Yes, it is." And Brenda's like, "Yeah, it's Susan." And I'm like, "No, guys, it's not. It's Linda Ronstadt." Same thing though. They hear the cover, we sound just like the record.
Because of my pub years, 28 of them, a lot of people heard the Beatles songs first from me. Okay. And I'd see them years later, some of these people, and they say, "Man,
wow,
I heard the Beatles version of that song you did. I like your version better." And I go, "Oh my God, this is so backwards." But it would happen. I stayed there so
funny.
long.
That'd be like that Beatle movie where the Beatles never were. And that movie.
Yeah, that was a trip.
Yesterday was great. But I've had a couple come in to the pub toward the end with their baby, saying they met there. This is a pub baby,
And the baby's name is Bob.
The craziest.
Listen. Russ learned about the Beatles through Wings.
There you go.
Oh,
he didn't know. Yeah.
There you go.
So,
listen. Hey, wasn't it great to hear Artie's story about how he found out he was fired? He was at the console with Brooks Arthur. We had a session book. And Paul, if you remember in the documentary, it took it a little further. This is when Brooks Arthur said, "Yeah, about 3 big guys," and we figured it was Ira Biggie and a third friend. And these big guys came in and took the tapes. They just took them from the studio right in front of them. And that was it.
Wow.
And then I'll never forget, they sat me and Bill down to tell us they had done this. But what they told us was, "This We Can Fly," and we were well on the way of recording "We Can Fly" with Artie Kornfeld. We had to scrap that, of course, but they're pulling that up and they're playing it for me and Bill, saying, this isn't you guys. This isn't you guys. I said, "Okay." The whole Roy Sakala and "We're going to do it ourselves, We Can Fly" album started. That's Marie.
Can I open by singing "How the Time"? No, I'll open by singing "How the Time Flies When I'm With You. When I'm with you, how the time flies." Can I open up by singing "I saw her sitting in the park, raindrops falling on her. She didn't seem to care. She sat there, she smiled at me." I'll do the blues version. "And I knew, I knew, yeah."
Hey, Artie. So when you were a little kid, was there anything you wanted to be other than music?
I wanted to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
And I became a good baseball player.
Nice.
I mean, we don't take advantage of it, but pitching a no-hitter against West Point, and I did.
Oh.
Kornfield pitched a no-hitter against West Point?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Little Adelphi College we drove in a bus, went up to West Point. We stayed there. We ate with the cadets. We slept in the gym.
Cool.
It was really something. And I came in, and when I was warming up, I realized the ball was in the catcher's mask loud, and I never threw that fast. And I couldn't develop a curveball in Little League, so I learned a knuckleball. So I got in, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to survive getting killed. And it was all 2,000 students, all in uniforms, and nobody from us. Just a stadium full of cadets.
Holy cow!
And it was intimidating. But I don't know, because when you throw a knuckleball, you don't know where the ball's going.
The catcher gets
I think what stuck in my mind was the catcher running back to get the ball that he missed.
That's pretty good.
Bob.
Hey, Artie.
Take this.
So we had Artie on last.
Don't forget, I was a symphony trumpet player first.
Symphony trumpet player.
I was all North Carolina first chair solo in Charlotte. I made first chair solo trumpet in the symphony.
Yes.
Wow.
Rock and roll's easy. If you make a mistake, you can go buy it. Symphony, if you make a mistake, you're dead.
Yeah, for sure. take
while
rock and
you're
roll,
while
it can be
you're
the great lick.
all right, Artie,
Okay.
while you're playing baseball and you seem to have a talent and you love the sport, at what point in your life did you transfer into music and start loving music and being so good at it?
What happened is my family loved music. My mother was always listening to jazz and West Indian. She loved Harry Belafonte, and
Oh, so
she loved ska and reggae. And my uncle loved the big band. So I was well, my dad was in. I was born when my dad was in the service. I didn't see my dad until I was 5. When he had
No.
four. My dad had 4 Purple Hearts and a Distinguished Service Cross and Bronze Cross.
holy
Wow.
cow.
Yeah, he
You
got.
ever consider the
He was
service?
captain. Yeah, he lived the PT 109 story. He was a chief petty officer. He didn't want to be an officer. He wanted to be enlisted. So he went to the top, and he was a chief petty officer. And his ship was hit by a torpedo, and he was in the engine room when it hit, and he had all scars. And he was an Olympic swimmer, my dad. So
Whoa.
what happened? So what happened was he swam 11 guys that were injured a quarter of a mile to shore in the Philippines. And he kept them there just like PT 109. It's the
Wow.
same
Wow.
story. Yeah, and I didn't see him till I was about 5 years old.
So
But
your
he,
family is known for making history.
well, I was born in 42. That was the start of the war. And it
There
ended
was.
in 45, and that's when my dad came home. He
Oh,
got out of the
Gaia.
hospital. Yeah, great guy.
Wow.
Did you ever think?
6'5", 250, 6'5", 250, all muscles.
Wow.
His football team in New York won the New York Championship 2 years in a row, and he was a sweetheart. You know,
Oh,
he's the guy
Did
that
you
they
ever,
called if there was domestic trouble, so he could talk people out of it.
Oh,
Artie,
cool.
Artie, did
And
you
his
ever
partner was an
consider?
Italian guy, Angelo Conti, 6'5", 800 pounds, all muscle. And my dad had to just contain Angelo. I
Artie,
said, Dad, were you ever shot at? He said, yeah. I said, what happened? He said, well, I was in Brooklyn. It was snowing. And
oh,
we pulled a guy over, and Angelo went to give him a ticket. And every time he got to the car, I pulled forward, and Angelo fell in the snow. He said the third time Angelo started shooting at the car. So that
Oh,
was the
wow.
only time he was ever shot at was by his partner.
Wow.
how
Yeah.
many
And he
people,
became a sheriff in Florida, Angelo.
how many people out
Anyway,
there thought that Artie Kornfeld was about to say his father got shot in the Philippines, not in the
Yeah.
snow in Brooklyn? Hey,
oh yeah. Well, 4 Purple Hearts. There's a lot of Purple Hearts.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
man.
oh,
Artie,
Yeah, when they were
did you ever think of joining the military at all?
uh, at one point, I actually signed up for the Marines, and then I went. They were about to take me, and a doctor came in who was doing jumping jacks, and he saw something was wrong. When I tackled a guy in high school, I blew 4. They had to take 3 discs out of my back, and the guy saw I was
Oh,
jumping weird, and he said, "Well, he had a German accent. He said, before we take you, I want you to take an X-ray." And first I got a letter saying, "Congratulations, you're being taken away." And then I was a little disappointed because a friend of mine named Louis Lopez, I played linebacker and he played tackle in front of me, and he got shot and killed in
oh,
Vietnam. Yeah, so I was sad, and then I got another letter saying, "We're sorry to inform you that you do not qualify. We've now switched you to 4F, meaning you're not fit for military service."
okay.
ah,
And you know what? Military service was probably easier than making records.
Yeah,
Wow. You got to be a soldier of something, right?
Well,
yeah.
you guys were easy because the harmony, you know what? The harmonies of the Cowsills was incredible, and I know why. And the same with the Bee Gees because you had the same vocal cords. You were born to the same. You had the same. You had the same stuff inside you.
Same DNA.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Yep.
so
All
everybody,
right.
we had Artie
And
on
I
last
loved.
week, and he
And
has
I
so
loved
many.
hanging with the whole. What was that, Bill? Bobby?
But now I was just going to introduce another segment, but finish what you were saying.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Linda
Last
and I
week,
love going. We love going up to the house. We love going up to hang with the Cowsills. One Cowsill was always a little bit of a drag, but the rest were all wonderful.
we all know who that was. All right,
Hey,
Paul.
look,
Paul has the first question. Last week. We had so much to talk about. We never got to Woodstock, so
yeah.
we want to
Sure.
start this. Paul, I think you had a first question, or Susan.
Okay, I'm
Paul.
ready.
Susan, did you want to ask about Melanie?
Well, yeah, we could. Well, actually, what I'd like to, I'd like Artie, if you would take us from the beginning
Okay,
of
okay.
when you decide where were you when either you or you and whoever said, you know what, let's put on a festival.
No, okay.
No, right, yeah, go.
I'm in my office. I'm now the vice president of rock at Capitol, the first vice president of rock in the music industry, and it's very busy, and I have things to do. And my secretary calls in, and she says, "Someone's here to see you." I said, "Well, I'm all booked up." She said, "Well, his name is Michael Lang," and I said, "Well, tell him I have a session, and I don't have time now, and I can't see him." And then I hung up, and then the phone rang again, and she said he came back in, and he said to tell you he's from Bensonhurst, and that's the neighborhood in Brooklyn that I grew up in, Bensonhurst. By the way, Sandy Koufax, the pitcher, was from Bensonhurst. John Gotti, the Don who took Vito Genovese's place, he was from Bensonhurst.
So it was one
And
of
it
the
was
characters in General Hospital that I watched.
really,
Yes,
oh
she's from
God.
Bensonhurst, and she talks like this. Keep going, Artie.
I met the guy who played the head doctor at General Hospital, and I met him in a drug rehab when I went in to speak. Hmm?
All right,
He
go
was
back
Ah,
to the story.
okay. So anyway,
The
the
guy
kid,
who
the,
was
the,
from Bensonhurst,
the kid comes in.
Lang.
Now, I had never done drugs, okay? And the only drug I did is when I was with Koppelman, we signed a Loving Spoonful, and I became friends with Sebastian. And I said, John, what does that smell? He said, well, it's marijuana, Mary Jane, like along came Mary. I didn't know what it was because I was an athlete, and athletes didn't drink, and they didn't get high and stuff. You concentrated on staying in the best shape you could. And he gave me a joint. I took it home, and Linda and you remember Linda,
oh,
Oh,
and
yes.
she's hard to forget, right?
Yes.
Anyway, uh, wow, I lost my mind.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
I blew my mind out in the car.
Of
So
Linda.
okay, so in walks this kid with. I had Bert Summer before, so I had seen people with long hair, but Bert Summer had talent. Michael Lang had no talent. His talent had led him to open up a drug paraphernalia store in Florida. He came in. I let him in because he was from the neighborhood. It's hard to turn down someone from the neighborhood. And he came in and we talked. And by the end of the talk, he had nowhere to live. He was broke. The police had closed down his head shop in Florida, and they gave him a week to get out of town where he was going to go to jail. And he came to me in New York City, and I was living on Southern Place then. You were never there. Linda and I had that apartment on top of the building. I don't
No.
think we had it yet. That happened after you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I had some bread.
How did he find you though, Artie? How did he just come to you?
I don't. You know what?
Yeah.
Michael Lang. Like, how did Bernie Madoff, the guy that went to jail for ripping people off for millions, how did he know about these people? Well, Michael must have done research because
Okay,
how
okay,
we
yeah.
how we found me, I don't know.
Okay, go. All right, go
But
ahead. So
but
there he
looking
is.
back, I figured out he had a plan, and he followed his plan.
All right,
And
so
he
he was
came
gonna go
in.
to jail.
Well, he had to leave Miami. He had to
Okay,
get
I
out. He
leave
had a
him.
week to get out of Coconut Grove, and he left. And I found him very likable. He was very smart in some ways, and in ways I didn't know because I didn't know oh, I didn't know about karma, and I didn't know about Reiki, and I didn't know about, you know, psychic healing. And anyway, he was very adept at that. And I found him very likable. And we talked intellectually. We were sort of a match. He was pretty smart, and I guess I was pretty smart. And we talked, and then he was telling me that he's here and he has nowhere to live. And we had where we lived, we had 3 bedrooms, and then downstairs on the second floor, Clarissa, who Linda found in Tobago. Now, how Linda got to Tobago, I have no idea, but she found Clarissa, and Clarissa stayed with us for 12 years. And I said to Michael, he had nowhere to live, no money. And I said, well, why don't you come and stay over with us? And that wound up being a year and a half that he stayed up with us. And became sort of, we hung out every day. And we became friends, you know.
Okay.
And I honestly think at that point, we really were friends. At that point. Uh, I didn't feel like I was being set up for anything. I just felt we were friends. And then one night I had a pool room and he never could beat me. It was 2 in the morning. He never could beat me at bumper pool. I won every game and we're talking and Linda's in the room with us. And then out of nowhere I say, well, I have a lot of royalties, and I'm sort of wealthy in my world. I'm wealthy because my dad had 3 jobs his whole life, and I said, and I just said to him, what would be cool to get a Broadway theater and just get a great act and put them in there and make it free. Just make it free. People don't have to buy tickets. Just first come, first serve. And I was thinking an act like the Moody Blues, maybe.
I like it.
Maybe the Spoonful, who knew? And we talked. And then Linda was listening. And then Michael had a girlfriend in Florida. They broke up, and she was living in Coconut Grove. Now, I had the band at Capitol, so I knew the band. So I knew Coconut Grove. And Albert Grossman, who managed Dylan and the band, and Janice and everybody, was a good friend of mine. And we were talking. Michael said, yeah, it'd be good to do something up in Woodstock, but there's no way to do anything there. Everything's all crowded. And then actually Linda, Michael never mentioned Linda in an interview once, and he never mentioned me, but I always mentioned Michael. And we decided, let's try to get some land in that area. And no matter where it is, I was good promotion. Except with you guys, I'm sorry. I didn't promotion when the Cowsills came out. I had never promoted anything. I was a record producer and a writer. And then you gave it to the company, and what they did, they did. And I wish I knew promotion, but obviously I did because God Almighty,
they're right in the park.
They're right in the parks like a national anthem. and that's what happened. So, and then Linda said, "Why are you guys talking about finding land, upstate?" She said, in Woodstock, she said, why don't you just find land anywhere? And then, Artie, you're great at promotion. All your songs you write, you had a lot of songs. You must get to people. He said, just build up the name Woodstock, and I did. And that's how we decided to go ahead with the Woodstock Festival. He wanted to call it this ridiculous thing called the First Annual Aquarian Exposition. I said, Michael, these are regular kids around the country. Why don't we just call it 3 days of peace and music? I was doing it because it was a protest against the war in Vietnam. And I had 3 guys I played football with killed within 2 months after he graduated high school in Vietnam. So we decided to go ahead, and we sat around and we talked about it. And I was still at Capitol. And then Michael said, Miles Laurie, the lawyer, read an article, and it said 2 guys on limited capital. And I said, well, why don't we go see them? So we called them up and we went and saw John Roberts and Joe Roosevelt, and that was the day it started. Now they wrote a book called Two Guys. They wrote a book called Barefoot in Babylon. And what they said in the book is actually what happened. And I'm not building myself up, but I don't have to build myself up. I'm me. I'm Irving Shirley's son. I'll always be that. I'll never be Woodstock, you know. Right now I'm Caroline's husband. That's more important than Woodstock. And yes, you know my family. You knew Linda and Jamie, so you know my other family.
Yep.
And I God, I got lost when I went there.
You were talking about the reason. So there you guys were. You were doing it for your reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Well,
two
okay,
guys
Michael.
at Capitol.
Okay. We went to see Joel and John.
The two guys at Capitol.
John Roberts wound up being like family being a part owner of Johnson and Johnson Pharmaceuticals. They had blocked pharmaceuticals then, and Joel was a friend of John's. I went to Yale, and we sat and talked. And Michael really didn't say anything because he didn't know anything. And I talked about this and that and what we could do with this and how we could get to this and that. And I knew the managers, we could get the acts. And when we left there, they had agreed to give us $250,000 to develop the idea.
Wow.
And we knew that was coming. And then I had a decision to make because they started a company, Woodstock Ventures, and in my capital contract, it was a 5-year contract. And I was in my second year, and I gave up the chance to be president of Capitol. I gave it up, but I said, I'd rather stop the war in Vietnam than move up in a company. I'd rather help do something to protest the war. And that's why I went ahead. And the other three partners were in it for the money. They were. That's why they were doing it as an investment. And I was doing it as a divestment. I was doing it to make people I wanted to keep rock and roll going. I'm a rock and roller. Come on, I did rock and roll. I even worked in the Charlotte Coliseum when I was 13 in North Carolina, selling soft drinks so I could get it for free. And
all right.
That was it. That was Woodstock Ventures, and
so Michael Lang then just kind of showed up. He didn't have a musical background per se. He didn't have anything, but he was just a guy who sought you out.
No, here's what happened. We had to give, before we got the money, we had to give resumes to Joel and John. Now, my resume was loaded because I already had about 42 songs on the charts. I had already run 3 labels. I had already run Rocket, Roulette, Mercury, and Capitol, and successful in each place. And Michael, the sheet he showed me at my apartment was all he could say is he had a store in Miami,
okay,
a head shop.
Okay.
And anyway, he said to me, Artie, I'm going to put down I did a Woodstock Pop Festival because there was one, which he didn't do. And I said, okay. And we turned that in and they gave us some money. And
wait,
then,
there was a Woodstock Pop Festival, a small version of
there was a festival in Miami that Michael knew guys that made money, whatever way they made money, because he had a head shop.
Right.
And they were going to have Jimi Hendrix. It rained. He played 15 minutes. It ended. The next day they tried again. It ended. And that was the end of that. 2 wealthy people in Florida that had a couple of $1 million.
Okay.
They put up $1 million each, and they hired some good acts, and they drew 80,000 people. And that was the Miami Pop Festival.
Okay.
And do you remember Lee Arnold? He had a lot to do with promoting you guys. Anyway, Lee Arnold was on the team I put together. Okay. And Lee Arnold was the announcer at Miami Pop, and he never saw Michael there. So
okay, so he kind of
now the only guy from Miami Pop that worked at Woodstock was Mel Lawrence, and he did work at the original Miami Pop that bombed. Okay.
Okay.
And Mel Lawrence knew what he was doing. He
Okay.
was the only one on the stage that really knew. You know, he was good.
So who if anybody has any questions, come on in. Who, so go ahead, Bob.
Well, my question is, so you've put in your resumes, everyone says go. I mean, I don't, it's so big sounding to us. And what you're dreaming of is so huge, seemingly hasn't really been done except in Miami. I mean, where do you even begin? Do you start lining up acts right away?
Yes.
Do you go see Yazger? What do you do?
Don't Bobby, I was already in. I got signed to Mercury. I got signed to Donnie Kirshner actually before Mercury when I was 18. So I had already had years. I already had 10 years in the business, and I knew what was going on.
You
I
knew
knew
how
how
to
it worked. I knew the acts that were being pushed. I knew the acts that weren't being pushed. And Michael's whole chore was to find a place.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
and my whole chore was to start building the name. Like I built the name the Cowsills. You know, come on, we didn't. You know, you guys are with me, and you know, a year and a half later, 2 years later, we did the Rain in the Park. Sometimes you got to pay the dues to sing the blues.
Hello.
Uh-huh.
And you know, and I turned down. I guess you knew. Donnie Kirsta said, "If you stay with me, you'll produce. We'll put it together, the Monkees." And I had produced a single with Davy Jones, and I said, "I don't want to do a group that's all actors. I want a real group that plays, that writes. I want real musicians and people that love music." And we waited, and then how did you even come to me? Do you remember how you came to me? Who sent you? Who
Us
sent
guys,
us?
Met you, we met you at Mercury Phillips. We were assigned to you. You were our assigned.
All right, you were my. All right, and I said I don't want them. They're kids. I don't want to
Yeah,
produce
we
kids.
heard that. And we thought, well, we didn't care if you didn't want us. Who would want a bunch of kids anyway? But it's going to
yeah, we
work out.
figured.
You're going to become our George Martin.
But but your demo, River Blue, that demo you made was good. And I said, gee, for the age these kids are, they did a really good job on this demo.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I was out with Chuck Berry because he was on Mercury in Chicago, and I came back and I said, let's go ahead and then I found out when I got back that they dropped the Cowsills. And I was
Mercury did.
really
Yeah.
pissed.
Mercury did.
Yeah, Mercury dropped you guys, and I was the head of it. I was in charge of that department, and I was mad. So I said I quit. So I gave up my salary and I gave up my security, and I said, okay, let's go. In the meantime, Dead Man's Curve went number one. I had money coming in and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
oh no, I was getting I already had about 10 or 12 songs that made the charts.
What year was Pied Piper, Artie?
Pied Piper was let's see, by the changing times, my record went top 20 with Steve Duboff, who you know.
Yes.
Steve and I, and then we got the Sonny and Cher tour, which was crazy. There we were. We never played. I played symphony trumpet, but then we were playing, 28 songs with Sonny and tour. And, you open at Green Bay, and then you get on a school bus and you go to Louisville, Kentucky. It
I
was
forgot
crazy.
you were in a band for a minute there. You were the band that did Pied Piper. That's right. What was
Yeah,
the
the first verse was by the Changing Times.
Changing
It was
Times? That
funny.
was
Well, Charles Koppelman really is the guy who built my career because he just got a job with Cursor at Screen Gems plugging songs, and he met me at Queens College, and I had saved $50 and I went and did a demo myself. I played everything, sang the harmonies, and played it for Charlie, and that was it. And Charlie, when I signed with Screen Gems, I signed a deal with Charlie to be my manager too. So 4 years later, he was still my manager. So that's the Pied Piper. Nothing happens with it except we go top 20. And that's the end of our career as artists. And
Okay.
then I go to college, and I was president of a Delphi class of '64, and I played baseball. And and then I decided I wanted to go to a better college, so I decided to go to a party school. So I looked up the party schools. There was a University of Miami, and then American University. Now that wasn't it was a party school, but it had great academic ratings. In fact, that's where Obama went to law school at Washington College of Law. And by the way, we'll talk about my relationship with the Obamas because I had that. Okay, so I
So
leave school and I get into American University, and I'm working in the snack bar. I'm working in the cafeteria because I wanted to make bread. And there's a girl, big heavy set girl with a guitar case open, and she's sitting in the corner singing, and she has a great voice. And we met, and that was Cass Elliot.
Wow.
And that was Mama Cass. Now, I was already a symphony trumpet player, so I could read and write and all that stuff,
wow.
music. And she said, "Oh, you should get a guitar so you can write." So got a guitar, and I started. She taught me
No
three chords,
way.
and I started to try to write. And the first song I learned was "Dream" by the Everly Brothers and La
Excellent.
Bamba, which was people don't realize Richie Valens. One side was "Dream" and the other side was La Bamba, and they both went top 10.
Yeah,
Okay, and that was Richie Valens,
that's
and
Oh,
amazing.
wow.
that was it. And then Cass said to me, "What my friends, Peter, Paul, and Mary, they did a song by this kid, Dylan, and they're going to be playing at the University of Maryland." So we drove the hour and a half from Washington to Maryland, and we saw and we met Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I became friends with Noel Stokey, the tall guy,
Oh,
and he was a great guy, by the way, a wonderful guy, and I started to play, then I started to learn, and I started to write lyrics. I had already won the New York State Oratory Contest. That was for writing, and I won. It was 5,000 people entered, and actually got a gold medal, and I had to speak. They gave you a title,
wow.
and the title was "I Speak for Democracy," and I turned it around, and I did speak for democracy. But I maybe didn't
Where's
say what
Woodstock?
I didn't say what Musk would want me to say, but I said what I wanted to say, and it worked. And it was all, probably servicemen, in the audience, and I won. And my mother always said my mother didn't like Woodstock, but she was proud of that I won the oratory, so I know how to write lyrics.
Well, I'm going to tell you whose other mother didn't like Woodstock. Mine. And when that movie came out and she saw you, she's like, I don't like the way he looks. He doesn't look well. She was all upset because you didn't look
Well,
like
you
her
know what?
art.
If she would have been in my mind, and I had a very small budget, and I knew the audience for promoting records, so every single word that you read and every single thing that was on radio to advertise, I wrote and produced.
Oh,
And people don't know at the end of the commercials, I had a very small budget, and I actually decided Michael was way out of line over budget because he had never done a concert, didn't know what he was doing, and
wow.
I decided to run an ad because we were low on money, and it was the ad. Actually, that ad ran on May 31st, 1969, and that was Linda and my wedding anniversary. And I put the ad out, and I knew radio, so I picked out. I only had enough money. I picked out the 40 markets that I knew could get to it, and I wanted to find out. I only had 60 grand left to promote a concert that was going to be in 3 months, so I had to bring money in, and I picked the stations, and I did the ads. At the end of the ad, people never realized as it was fading out, you heard, "How does it feel to be on your own like a rolling stone?" So I had Dylan buried way down.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was going to be there. but people were planted. That's where the rumor came. Dylan's going to be there.
All right, hey, Artie, here's the question. All right, so you send Michael Lang off to get the property settled, and you're going to start.
He was going to be the producer. I was going to be the promoter.
So, but who's going to start? Are you going to start calling the groups who are going to be at Woodstock? You pick the phone up and start calling everybody?
No, you know what? Michael was unknown, and the first act that I heard, because they changed it all around, they rewrote history, but was Sly Stone. Now, Dave Kaperlik at that point was his manager, and I called Dave, and he said, I went up to the site. The guy don't know what he's doing. It'll never be ready. I don't know if I want Sly to play there. And I was a little concerned because Sly had caused a riot at the Newport. In the future, he's caused a riot at the Newport Jazz Festival. And Woodstock was the next month. By the way, before Sly went on, I sat with him for 45 minutes and I had to program him to be peaceful. I said, look at that crowd. That's what, forget about I want to take you higher. Think of your song, Everyday People. I am everyday people. And these are everyday people out there. And they're every color. They're from all over the place. And they're good people. I said, so give them the best. And I'll tell you, Linda and I and Michael Wadley, the photographer, we were there, and I'll tell you, Sly was great, and it was a great way. But before the show started, I'll tell you what happened. Oh no, you're running the show. Tell me, what do you want to know?
No. Well, now that we're in this space, we interviewed Melanie here on the podcast, and she told her story of how in the end she wasn't prepared, didn't know she was playing, and then came out to the site with her mom, and they never put her mom on the helicopter with her, took her without her mom. It freaked her out. Do you know anything about that?
No, you know why? Because most of the acts on there had drug connections of some kind, because drugs were going around in the music world then. You know that. I know it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It was just the pressure I felt myself. I'm sober 45 years now, but I felt, I got into cocaine. And, and I was very old for a guy that didn't even smoke a joint till he was 23. Melanie, just about Melanie real quick. Melanie and her husband came to see me at Compliment Rubin, where I was working, and played, and Charlie wanted to pass. And my friend Philly Steinberg was the chairman of the board of Buddha Kama Sutra, so I got him to deal with Buddha Kama Sutra. And Melanie and I became close. We were so close that when her husband Peter died, within an hour after he died, she called me here. Caroline was here. I got the call from Melanie, and she says, Artie, Peter died. And Peter wasn't liked, by the way. I didn't like him myself. And neither did she, I don't think, at the end. And she says, Artie, would you manage me? And I said, Melanie, I can't manage myself. I said, and besides, I'm going through a lot of turmoil right now. And anything I could do to help you, I will. Because I love Melanie. And I love Beautiful People. I love that song, Beautiful People. I loved it. When I first heard her, I said, wow, great. And Melanie, came, signed with us and got her the deal at MGM, and she happened sort of on record. And she was there. And of course, my act that I was doing at Capitol was Bert Summer. And Bert Summer, according to Michael Wadley, who was the photographer that Michael and I hired to be the director of the film. I made we'll get to the movie deal when you want. But he told me that when we went to Italy together, there was a documentary, thinking they flew me and Michael to Wadley to Italy. And told me that Bert Summer got the only standing ovation at Woodstock. He played for an hour and a half. Why he wasn't in the movie, and I see it online. People say, There's a song called Jennifer by Bert Summer that has like 5 million hits online. That's how good Bert was. And
Wow.
he was in the show Hair on Broadway. He had done TV. He also had gone to high school with Linda. And oddly enough, Forest
Wow.
Hills High School was Linda, Larry Brown, who started at the left back at the Walkaway Renee. Leslie was too. I never cared a lot for, but he was in there too. There was a lot of, and Paul Simon went to Forest Hills High School in Hardy.
Oh,
And
wow.
Paul became a friend of mine. Well, I was honored because it was Paul
Artie,
Simon. To me, he's like God.
Artie. So you have this
I
big, you have this big festival plan. You got the site, you got the groups. We're just curious, at what point did you realize this thing is so big, we're not going to be able to even control it anymore? I mean, when did it not fall apart, but when did you realize that we're not going to be able to collect the ticket fee from everybody in this field?
Well,
we don't have
that's when I decided to put that ad out and run those ads on radio because what I did, no one had, in fact, Bob Geldof, who did Live Aid on the Woodstock 50th, I was the only person he had on the BBC, and he interviewed me for 2 hours. And he said, Artie, how did you even decide? No one had ever done what you did. And Bill Graham told me the same thing. I put tickets in the newspaper ad with a picture of the ticket, and I picked out the newspapers because I wanted to find with the 60, I had $60,000 left, and I had to keep this thing alive for 3 months. It was impossible, but it wasn't impossible because I did it. And what happened was I picked out I knew radio, so I picked out the stations that would reach the most people, and I wanted to find out, did I advertise to the underground papers like the Village Other, or do I put it in the New York Times? And I sold 100,000 tickets that weekend and took in $1,300,000, and that was enough to keep the festival going.
Wow.
I couldn't believe that many people responded to that ad. But you know what? You know why I knew those people? Because I was those people.
Mhm.
So I advertised the way I would advertise to myself.
We
Wow.
never hear about the people who paid to get in. We only hear about how it was too many people not prepared for it, and therefore people weren't even paying, that kind of thing.
Well, we took in over $1 million.
Uh-huh.
And Michael,
Well,
and the thing that, you know what? Michael's gone. And I look back and I still have love for Michael. But Michael had a part of him that was a head shop owner in Florida. And the people we dealt with were people that went to head shops. And that was Michael. I didn't know the street. I was a college kid. I was president of my class in college. When Michael was out selling lids of weed, I guess, whatever
yeah,
he did.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you know,
Now,
and
Paul, one
and
second, Artie.
I didn't even smoke cigarettes yet. So a
Paul,
little ahead of
remember
me.
Ira saying that Dad had given him a job of driving one Michael Lang down from Hallidan Hall back to New York after he had come up to ask us to play Woodstock. Did Ira?
I don't recall that.
Well, to tell you the truth, Albert Grossman, who managed Janice, and who managed Jimmy, I had the band at Capitol when Albert managed the band. And Albert and I were friends already. We were already friends. So once once we had enough acts that it looked like it was going to happen, then the other acts started to come in. You know who
Oh,
really helped? You know who helped book the acts the most? Bill Graham, because Michael couldn't get the acts. He didn't have the name.
Yeah.
And Bill Graham, if you take a look at the acts at Woodstock, you'll see that the big acts were West Coast acts.
okay.
Janice, the Airplane, the Dead,
Crosby,
uh,
Stills.
who's Fida De La Pari's group 10 years after. They opened the movie so they can go into the country.
Someone
So
turn
I
you down?
interviewed Tito. I couldn't believe Tito at 120 is still playing drums. with 10 years after. I can't believe at 83 I'm doing this interview with you now.
Artie,
but I know you a long time.
Artie, did anybody turn it down? Did any of the big groups say no?
Yeah, Michael went to Canada, but they wouldn't let Lennon because of he got busted for grass or something. They wouldn't let Lennon leave the country.
Sounds like Canada.
We should have had, yeah, I know Kate who lived with Jim Morrison for a while, and Morrison turned it down,
Okay.
and the Doors.
Yep.
And I couldn't figure out. Actually, I wasn't thinking about it because I was so busy trying to just advertise to the United States and the world that this is going to happen and convincing people that I wasn't thinking about that part. I was just thinking about the promotion, how to get people to believe what I felt in my heart, that this was a protest against the war, and it was also a good way to get America united.
And it did.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally
and
did.
I wasn't doing it for money because I had already thrown away a great job to do it,
During the show itself, during the 3 days, was it constant? Were you able to enjoy it, or did you enjoy it after? Or was it just too hard on you during the 3 days to keep it going?
It wasn't 3 days for me. Okay. So now I'm sitting in my office and I'm going to go up to the site. I'd only been up there twice. While Michael was trying to build a site, which was never built, I couldn't understand. Okay. When I got there, I'll tell you what I couldn't understand. Okay. Linda and I, when I was at Mercury, when I had you guys, I signed a guy named Leon Bibb, and he was managed by Freddie Weintraub, and Freddie Weintraub owned the Bitter End. So that opened up the whole thing for the underground in New York and in the big cities. Because Freddie Weintraub, he's the first person to play Lennon. That's where Bob Lennon was introduced. I'm sorry, Bob Dylan. He was introduced at the Bitter End. So Freddie was a friend of mine, and the show went on and on and on and on. And I was with Jimmy, and Jimmy was very angry because he was supposed to go on at 9 o'clock when there was 500,000 people there. And Michael kept putting on these unknown acts from Woodstock. And I had to cool Jimmy out. And Jimmy went on. When Jimmy played, there was only 55,000 people. And if you see the T-shirts and all that stuff, I'm bugged about the T-shirts and I'm bugged about the people that are selling Woodstock stuff for money now. I think they're ripping off something. They don't even have the feeling of what Woodstock was in there.
Oh, buddy, I know that feeling. It's very disappointing.
Did you know
that people make money off of your yeah.
Did you know ahead?
You know what it was? I didn't do it for money, and these people are making money, and
I know.
It doesn't matter. I wish them the best. Maybe they have sick kids and they need the money. I don't know.
Right. That's right. You never know.
Artie, were you aware? Were you aware before he stepped up on stage and did it that Jimi Hendrix was going to shred that national anthem like that? Did you know that was coming?
I was with Jimi Hendrix for an hour before he went on.
Okay.
And every time he got pushed back, he was supposed to go on he got there at 8, so we know the feeling because Jimmy was ready to play the best he'd ever played in his life. And when Jimmy went on, I heard him tuning up and I walked on the stage. That's why I'm standing right behind him and all those. Yeah, I'm on the posters. I'm on all the things. Because the photographer, Jimmy had his own photographer and he was a friend of mine. So he made sure I was in the shots with Jimmy. And I didn't know I was until I saw them. And
Jimmy
what was your question? Oh, yeah. Jimmy was angry. And Buddy Miles had been a friend of mine. And I knew Buddy and Jimmy. They had even visited Linda and I at our apartment a couple of times. So I knew Jimmy. And I cooled him out. And he went on and he played. And, when he came off, when he was finished, I knew it wasn't White Jimmy the way I'd heard Jimmy before. And I wasn't a big Hendrix fan because, Hugh McCracken and I loved the studio musicians were better than a lot of the guys in the band. They were great musicians, the studio musicians. And I thought that Alvin Lee was the best guitar player at Woodstock. His version of Coming Home was incredible. And Leo Lyons, the bass player, was a friend of mine. So I loved Alvin Lee. Jimmy came down and we walked off the stage together when he finished. And I said, Jimmy, what did you think? He said, average. He said, it was only average, Artie. I really wasn't on. He said, if I would have played at 9 o'clock, it would have been magic.
Oh,
he said,
boy.
but waiting around 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, waiting around 7 hours to play,
Yeah.
keep being pushed back. He said, I just didn't have it. But I thought he had it because I was standing 10 feet from him when he played, and I was blown away.
But you know that feeling, though.
Yeah, just
worn down.
Well, you know what? He wanted to be so good that he actually rented a house in Phoenicia, about 20 miles away, and he had the Experience and the Band of Gypsies, and they stayed together, and they didn't get there till about 7 o'clock, so they could feel. They got there at 8, so they could feel what was going on.
Sure.
And that's what was going on, and obviously Jimmy played great because he became.
Well, was legend.
He became like president of the Ukraine.
I have a question.
But he wasn't president of the United States.
I have a question. So at any point in your Artie Kornfeld head, while you were putting this Woodstock together, did you ever think of inviting your Cowsills?
No, I didn't. I didn't because I was so angry about what your father did to me.
Yeah.
Because
what was the basis of that, Artie? Do you
I don't know. There was, what the basis is when I was in the studio and Barry sang a note that was wrong, and he came out and slapped Barry, and I came out and shoved him, and I threw him out of the studio. I said, "Don't ever come in the studio again."
Okay.
And also, he didn't like the fact that your whole family had become friends of mine.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be the boss,
No, that makes good sense. That makes good sense in our world because keeping us contained and confined, and if we're actually leaning into you, then he's losing what he's feeling. He's losing control. So that makes complete sense. Wow.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing control. I became one of you guys. I was like one of the kids.
Right.
When you were all friends, you were all friends of mine.
Yep.
You weren't old enough to date yet, Susan.
Yeah, absolutely not, Mr. Kornfeld.
You would have given me another 20 years. You never know what would have happened.
Was Linda old enough to marry?
It would have been Cowsills. What? No, Linda was there. Linda was there the whole time.
I know that.
She was at the house. She was backstage.
Oh, I know. I will never forget how she smelled, how Piper smelled, how Linda smelled, and her frosted lips, and that car you guys would drive. That you always came out. What?
I got that Corvette because when Dead Man's Curve went to #1, I came back and I said to Donnie Kirsten, Jen has a Corvette and Brian Wilson has one. And I just had a #1 song and you're going to get the money back. I said, can't you give me an advance so I could get a Corvette? And he gave me an advance. You know what it cost? It cost $3,200.
Oh my God.
That's what a Corvette cost, yeah.
No.
And I had earned my back playing football, and I got the Super Racing Edition, and I couldn't push the clutch back because it was so hard that after 3 weeks I sold it for $2,800 because I couldn't clutch because my back was killing me.
So what did you do? Next car you had that was a convertible?
Well, no, we had that big Pontiac Bonneville.
Yeah,
that was the big one. That was a convertible. That's the one you know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the boat.
That's the one you know.
Hey, Artie, do you still do projects? Do you have a project now?
Yeah, I'm doing this interview. This is my project. My project now is making it to 83 in September.
All right, that's
yeah. We're all on that project. That's
yes,
a good.
Indeed, we are.
Oh, okay, project. Okay, see this book. This book I've never advertised. I haven't pushed. Now I did an internet show. It got 20 million hits in 5 years. I never really pushed the book. This is the only true book of the whole trip of Woodstock. But it's not Woodstock. It's about us, how we started for musicians, what happens when we happen, how drugs come in, how addiction comes in, how getting sober comes in, and how death comes in, and how the loss comes in, and how recovering from loss comes in. And it's all in this book.
What's it called?
What? It's the only true book of Woodstock. You know what? Because I'm the only one who tells the true story.
I believe you, Artie.
I tell the truth. There's nothing more
Hold
than
it
the
up
truth.
so we can see it. Hold it up. I want to see it.
Hold it right in front of your face. Go over to, yes. Now go a little back. Go back. Go back.
No, we're not going to get it. What's the name of it?
What's the name of it?
It's called The Pied Piper of Woodstock. Now I shouldn't have called it the Pied. I shouldn't have called it the Pied Piper, but I got to have that nickname, the Pied Piper of Woodstock.
That's a great name.
I should have just called it, and it's the only book.
Woodstock, the book.
Everybody else got money and this and that, and Caroline and I scraped together our own money, paid for it, went to Amazon, and didn't go to a publisher. Turned down the one publisher that made me an offer because I didn't want someone controlling it. I wanted to control it.
Yeah.
And the only part I forgot is that when you control it, you don't ever make money.
I think
I didn't do it to make money. I did it. Well, yeah, I wanted to make money, but of course, I wanted people to know the true story of what was behind Woodstock, what happened, and what happened after. So I go into the drugs, and I go into why people like us, when we happen, drugs are around. Because people are around us that want to get close. And because we're in the studio 10 hours a day, and we're beat up and we want to keep going.
Good. I can't wait to get a copy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been in the studio, you understand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know we will.
We've seen the sun come up outside A&R Studios in New York. We have seen the sunrise.
Yeah. Well, because you're the Cowsills, people probably think you snort milk. You want to give me a version of Love American Style or whatever?
Love American Style, truer than the red, white, and blue. Yeah.
Zoom doesn't let harmonies work, Artie. It's a travesty.
I have a question.
It is.
Artie, on the Rain the Park and other things. Everyone knows it starts with rain. My question really, I know it wasn't rain in the end, but in the beginning, because you couldn't go down to the local store and get a CD of rain sound effects. So did you try and record rain at first, or how did you try?
No, that was an Artie. I was tested, and I am in the 10% most psychic because I did predict a plane crash, and a professor heard it, and I was tested by the Bureau of Psychic Research.
Okay.
And so what happened is,
with the rain in the front of
I write a song called "I Love the Flower Girl."
Yes.
And then 3 days after it's coming out, first of all, I wanted the other side. Come around here, I'm the one you need. The Motown song.
Come around here.
That's a great record. It really is. And I wanted that to be the A side because, I'm the writer, so I'm not secure about it. And 3 days before it's coming out, Mo Austin, who is the president of MGM, calls me up, and I go over, and he goes, "Artie, I need a new title." I said, "To what? Should I change my name from Artie Kornfeld?" He said, "No, I mean about the song." He said, "I Love the Flower Girl" is not good because it's really picking up amongst the West Coast. And I'll tell you what that song did, okay? Because I was the lead speaker at the Summer of Love, 100,000 people. I spoke to 100,000 people, and I didn't know what did I have to do with the Summer of Love. I was a New York writer. I wasn't even out there. I didn't know about the Summer of Love. So he said, we need a title, and out of nowhere, I have no idea why. There was no connection to anything in the world that I knew, and it said the rain, the park, and other things. And I said, "What I just say?" And I said, "That can't even sit on a single. You can't even. You don't even have enough room to put that title."
Yeah.
And he told me why. He said, because Barry has this record out, and it's if you're going to San Francisco with
Scott
and I knew
McKenzie.
Barry. He said, yeah, was it?
Scott McKenzie.
Who sang it again?
Scott.
Okay,
Scott McKenzie had San Francisco.
So anyway, he was doing the other Flower song. So anyway, uh, he told me about the record and said it's really happening, and you're going to get confused with that record, and it's going to hurt the record. So we need a song with the flower. And it's, so I said, okay. And that was it. And I remember don't forget, we had already gone to the Lake of the Ozark. Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
That weekend at the lake.
We talked
doing
about that.
Water skiing, going up and down the lake.
Loved it.
All these what did they have? A couple of hundred people there at least. It was great. And you guys did a great show there.
Hey, was that was our name in ice at that place?
Was your name in what?
I saw our name, the Cowsills, etched out in ice at one of our big events. I was blown away because I was 7. I was just wondering if that's where it was.
I missed the ice. I was too busy. I was too busy saying it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
It's pretty cool. And
so why did you come on that trip with us? Why were you with us?
Because at that point I was co-manager with Lenny Stogel, who may his soul rest in peace.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say.
Okay, yeah. I think we'll just join me on that. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, hey Artie,
what's good about that is that his sister was Myrna Stogel, and did you know Myrna Stogel's brother was Clive Fox, and his father was Harry Fox, and you know what? I'm not going to say it, but I haven't gotten many statements from the Fox agency since
at all.
And you know what? I think Clive Fox is now the president, but the record's selling with the internet. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm very I'm anti-internet and I'm anti-computer.
Artie,
I think it took away from people touching each other.
When you changed that name, when you changed that name to the Rain, the Park, and other things, when we got word of that, we couldn't figure out why you did that and how anyone was going to remember that name. Is what
there's 2 of us,
and they still don't remember it.
Yeah, but you want to know what? I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you sad. Okay, I listened to it 20 years later, and all my songs, like the Pied Piper, is a very angry protest song. People think it's a happy-go-lucky song. You with your masquerading, you're always contemplating what to do in case happiness found you. Can't you see it's all around you? It was my feelings. Don't be scared to move what you're trying to prove. And The Rain in the Park, it's an eerie story because it was about Linda and my family. And then suddenly the sun broke through. I turned around, she was gone. And Linda died at 34. Yeah. She was gone. And all she had left was one little flower in her hand. And that was my daughter. And then Jamie went. And then the rest of the song is really a prediction of Woodstock about what happened.
Aww.
And that's what that song is about.
I love it.
It's sad in a great way, though. It's good sad.
How did you make the rain? How did you make the rain in the beginning? How did you make the rain in the beginning be strong enough to be heard?
I don't know if you were there. I went into the studio and I called SIR and I asked her, I need rain. So they sent me about 150 tapes of rain. And I listened to them all, and none of them were right. So the guy says, okay, I got to bring these back. And as he's walking out, I look down and I see it says bacon frying in a pan. And I say, bacon frying in a pan. And then I talked to George Martin, right? Because I had the Beatles and I knew the Beatles trip. And I said, I'm going to be a George Martin here. I wonder if I take it off the stereo, put it around a mic stand, stretch it out, put echo on it, and I wonder what's going to happen. And I put it on, and there was the rain. I couldn't believe it. It was
Wow.
like that.
Crazy.
Now, whatever God is, that's a God trip.
Yeah.
I did not. I mean, something had me stop the guy, and something made me see that one box out of 150 boxes I saw it said bacon frying in a pan. So I said, "Let me have that. Leave that," and I put it on, and it worked. And boy, did it work!
And you know,
I
if
just
you
can't
listen,
imagine
if
trying
you
that.
know what happens in your head, if you listen to something and you kind of know what it is, if you go listen to that rain, you'll hear the bacon frying.
You know
Yeah.
what? I never wanted to do that. I didn't want to hear that.
That's
It's
funny.
rain. It's rain. It's rain.
It's rain, Bob. It's rain. It's not bacon.
Yeah,
I
we could have
hear it.
brought in B.J. Thomas, and he could have sang "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head."
What do
Wow.
you mean?
Anyway, the
Wait,
rain
no,
part.
wait.
You know
What
what?
about
That song's an anthem. I can't believe, as a writer, I follow it, and because of you guys, I follow it, and I can't believe that it's still like it just came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
People
it
love
is.
it.
It's too bad records don't sell now, but it seems
No.
Yeah.
like it just came out, you know. And I'll tell you the truth, I was with Brooks and Jimmy. That was the first. That was a one-time mix. I can't
Really?
believe that we hit it on the
Are
first
you
mix.
kidding?
Wow.
No, I didn't. You weren't there.
You're kidding.
Yeah,
That
I was
was
controlling the mix, and that Jimmy and Brooks Arthur was a genius. You know that. And
yes, but oh, that's so phenomenal. One time, and you guys just went, "That's it. Don't touch it."
yeah, it was just meant to be.
That's
If you
awesome.
were
That's
Jewish,
big.
there's a Yiddish expression called "Mitcha Bekimen," and that means meant to be. It was meant to be.
Awesome,
And
Art. Wow, this has been amazing. You are amazing.
Artie,
you know that album. You know what? MGM didn't get it around enough because that first album, is loaded with hit songs,
yeah.
and
Oh, I agree.
everything is great on that album. You know, and it's the best thing I ever produced or ever was involved with.
Wow.
You
What's
That
know, I
game
mean,
nice?
was
Dead Man's
awesome.
Curve is a natural. You know, but I had Brian Wilson and Lou Adler and Jan Berry. I had some powerful people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Artie, we're
And
coming to Florida and
I don't know if Bud was there. I don't think Bud was there when we mixed. I don't
Oh,
think your dad was there.
my dad wouldn't have known what to do with a mixing moment. I don't think he
I
understood what
don't
was
think I
going
wanted him there when he mixed.
on. No shit. Bob,
No,
what are you going to say to Artie? Bob.
I was going to let Artie know that we're coming to Florida in June on the Happy Together tour. And we're going to chase you down when we get into Florida in June and come and see you.
Yeah, come over to your house.
you know in the last 15 years, 20 years, the only time I've gone to a show was to see you guys.
We
You know,
remember.
because I had
Well,
been
we'll
sick. I
see you this.
remember I had surgery.
Yeah, no,
And
Yes.
I sent you those pictures, right? You got those two pictures my girlfriend took of me and you. Look on
no,
your
I
phone.
don't. No,
Yeah,
I don't have.
get Caroline or Maureen to look on your text. I sent it to you. I did.
Where would it be?
On your text, Arthur.
I don't know. I got 6 sites, so when they got
You need
50,000.
one of your lovely assistants to find it. But
Well,
I
you know what? I call them the wood. I call them the wood stalkers. The woods.
Woodstock. I like that. Hey, Artie, do you know,
The
you know,
Woodstockers are real people that believe in what it stood for, and the Woodstockers just like to use the name to think they're hip, you know. And maybe they are hip. I don't know. Maybe I'm not hip. I'm hip.
no,
I'm
I
hip.
think you're
Not
pretty
hip.
hip. I think you're really hip.
Well,
Artie,
you
this has
folks are
been
pretty hip
great.
too.
This has been great seeing you and hearing you and talking to you. We love you. You know, I got to tell you, just as one of the elders, everything you taught us when you came to Hallidan Hall that summer, and everything you taught us with Most Peculiar Man and those early studio sessions, that laid the groundwork for everything we've done since. Everything. that knowledge, and going through that with you and learning so much was just, it was short, but it was magnificent.
It's potent. Yeah.
Well, every time I see you guys, I get tears because I remember it all.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you and
listen,
Brooke, it was you and Brooks and Jimmy Wisner. The team was in place, and we were going to have 10 albums, but that's not going to happen, of course, because of you know who. But that's what was supposed to happen.
Right. Let's not forget Artie Kaplan because he booked the musicians. Oh, you know what? The guy Gene Bianco who played that was the first time a harp was ever used on a rock record.
Really?
Yeah. And the guy who played it, Gene Bianco, he called me in a restaurant one day. He says, Artie, I got to thank you. I said, why, Gene? He said, you know what? I've been paying my rent now because you put in that. He said, since you put it on, I've been getting booked to play on rock records all over the place.
Wow.
So we beat the Moody Blues to the point.
Yeah. And
you brought the harp to rock. That's what you did. You brought the harp to rock.
Well, you know what? The harp sort of fits the feeling of what we all are.
Great call.
Good people.
Yeah.
Listen, so when we come in June on our tour, if we get in touch, can we come over and say hi?
Of course.
Okay.
What are you kidding? I was in your house.
It's a funny question.
In your house. I was in your house. You could be in mine.
All right, Artie. We're going to let you go. This has been great. Thank you so much. You sound great. You look great.
It's always great. You guys sound great and look great too. You always did.
Thank you. You always did too.
You and I will catch up on the phone one of these days when I don't have company at my house, which is nonstop. I need a good 2 hours to catch up with you, Artie.
Yeah, I'm so tired of hearing your answer thing. Come on.
Who wants to hear it? Oh, that girl.
All right, guys.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you guys are going.
We are going.
You're still going.
Mr. Kornfeld. We owe it all to you.
Yeah, we do.
Next time you get a cruise, get me a stateroom, will you?
Okay.
No, you know what? You get a cruise, you say you should have Artie Kornfeld because he'll talk for a half hour about Woodstock.
That's not out of the realm of possibility. Stay tuned.
Also,
Artie.
you can introduce us and stay up there.
Artie could do a panel, guys, like May Pang.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah, well, that's a great.
Artie,
we'll see.
Love you, Artie.
Yeah.
I love you all too. Sorry,
we love you too.
Sorry, Barbara's not here.
Yeah. And Linda and Jamie. Look, everyone, we love them all. We'll be with them soon.
Look, you had a mother and a father, and you were 1 for 2.
Yeah, you're right.
That's 500.
If you're in the major leagues, that's 500. You know, in Babe Ruth, I batted 534.
Wow. No, I didn't know that.
And, oh, by the way, I did pitch a perfect game against West Point.
You did?
Listen, Cowsills and Kornfield aren't finished.
Were you left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed, and I threw a knuckleball.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I always have. I always will.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
We'll be in touch.
Peace.